War on Terrorism, Drone Strikes. A brief history between napalm, Agent Orange, and firebombing. The U.S. has always used its technological advantages to fight its enemies over the last century. Because America has always had a history of harboring some of the world's brightest minds, we were always able to stay ahead of the curve. This military technological advancement has led us to drones. The goal with these drones was simple: have an unmanned vehicle able to take out targets a world away. This was appealing to the U.S. It allowed us to stay involved in the war on terror without the possibility of military casualties. We could take out enemies without the threat of our troops dying in the process. Unfortunately, nothing is ever too good to be true. Whenever there are pros, there are also cons. In this case, with drone strikes, the negatives were being overshadowed by the good they were bringing. They were saving our troops' lives. Unfortunately, the places we were bombing didn't feel the same way. We were leveling towns and killing civilians with each strike. Luckily, we have learned from our past, and with the improvements in technology come fewer and fewer deaths. Hopefully, as time progresses, we'll be able to kill the military targets we need to without disrupting civilian life. That being said, it's good to look back and see how far we have come leading up to drones, and what its predecessors were used for. The first on this list would be napalm and Agent Orange used in Vietnam. Agent Orange and napalm were both military tactics used in the Vietnam War. Napalm was a highly flammable gelatin compound used to induce uncontrollable fire that was unable to be put out by water or basically any other method, a destructive method used to destroy the wildlife in Vietnam. On the other hand, Agent Orange was an herbicide used to destroy the wildlife in a less dramatic way than burning it all to the ground. Both napalm and Agent Orange had the same purpose, just two different methods. Unfortunately, unlike napalm, Agent Orange had a very horrific lasting effect. Agent Orange had penetrated deep into the ground and poisoned the soil and the water supply of the Vietnamese, a mainly agricultural country. This made it almost impossible to farm in Vietnam, and also poisoned anyone who drank the water. Not only did this affect the generation living through the war, but it also affected the children born throughout this period. Many children at this time were born with disabilities, defects, and deformities. As terrible as this was in Vietnam, these problems were also brought back home with the veterans, almost all of whom died of cancer and had children suffering of disabilities never seen before. Along with napalm and Agent Orange used in Vietnam, another example that predates these tactics is the extensive firebombing of Japan in World War II. Firebombs were used much in the same way as napalm in Vietnam. The goal was to cause mass destruction and displace as many people as possible. Because Japan's cities were built primarily with wood and paper, its cities were devastated. Operation Meeting House is the largest air raid to date. It was conducted by American forces over Tokyo, Japan during World War II. Robert Gillian, a French reporter, spoke about his experiences in Japan during World War II. He was in Tokyo as a news reporter doing an article. He talked about how when the air raids would start, the American B-29 bombers would, quote, sow the sky with fire and light up the darkness like a Christmas tree, and then fall back to the earth in whistling bouquets of flame. The quote from this reporter shows just how intense the air raids were on Japan during World War II by U.S. forces. Just during Operation Meeting House in Tokyo, Japan, it is estimated that close to 200,000 civilians were killed. As the United States of America produces better and better wartime technology, the rates of civilian deaths have decreased exponentially. One of the earlier examples being firebombing and the most recent drone strikes, the technology has been improving at a very fast pace, and in the future it is likely that we will be able to kill the military targets we need to without killing civilians in the process. The connection. All of these different weapons of mass destruction have been used to fight America's enemies and have been successful, but with drawbacks. In Vietnam, Agent Orange destroyed the landscape as well as hundreds of thousands of lives. In Japan, the firebombing left the country in shambles. The goal of the United States military has been to protect our people and fight our enemies with the fewest amount of American casualties and try to kill as few civilians in the process as possible. As time has gone on, war has changed, and with that, our technology has adapted to the circumstances. From wide aerial bombardment in Vietnam and Japan to the pinpoint accuracy of drones today, we have been able to use our technology to effectively fight the war on terror. Even though our technology has improved since the days of firebombing, an interview with a former drone pilot, Brandon Bryant, shows that not everything is perfect yet. He explained that on one of his routine missions, after firing a missile, quote, 6 seconds before impact, something small runs around the corner of the building. It looked like a small person. The missile hits, and there is no sign of the person any longer. In Bryant's own words, this is the first time he realized he killed a child.